He thought she was just busy at work until he found this in her car. Before we begin this story, where are you watching from? Comment below and enjoy. I used to trust my wife Lydia with everything I had. Married for 8 years, we built a life that looked perfect from the outside. A house in the suburbs, a daughter in primary school, weekend brunches and matching pajamas during Christmas. People always said we were the dream couple. But dreams, I've come to learn, can turn into nightmares in the blink of an eye. It all started on a Monday morning. Lydia had left early for work, rushing out the door like she usually did, giving me a quick peck on the cheek and tossing her bag over her shoulder. I waved goodbye and went on with my day. But later that afternoon, I had to drop off our daughter's forgotten school project. Lydia's car was parked unusually far from her office building, so I decided to place the folder on the front seat rather than bother her. That's when I saw it. A black scarf, silky, laced with a heavy perfume that wasn't hers. I know what Lydia smells like. This wasn't it. It was a scent I'd never smelled before, seductive, musky, unfamiliar, and it was fresh. I froze. My hand hovered over the seat. There was a lipstick stain on the scarf. Deep red. Lydia never wore that shade. She always said it made her look too bold. At first, I told myself it must belong to a friend. Maybe someone borrowed her car. But something in my gut twisted. Something wasn't right. I didn't ask her about it that night. I waited. I watched. And that's when the real story began. The story that would tear my world apart and rebuild me into someone she never expected. Someone she couldn't resist. The scarf haunted me for days. Every time Lydia hugged me, every time she smiled, I wondered if it was all fake. I watched her closely, too closely. Her routines started to change. She worked late more often, she laughed a little less, and once, when I asked how her day went, she hesitated before answering. That's when I decided to follow her. It was a Friday evening. She left the house wearing a tight black dress I hadn't seen before. She said it was a girls' night out with her work friends. She smelled expensive, looked stunning. But something in my chest told me not to believe her. I waited 15 minutes after she drove off, then grabbed my jacket and followed in my own car. I kept a distance, heart pounding in my chest. She took a turn away from the city, away from any restaurants or lounges I knew. Then she parked beside a quiet hotel. I parked on the opposite street out of view, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. She sat in the car for a few minutes, fixing her hair in the mirror. Then a man appeared, tall, muscular, dressed in a white button-down. He didn't hesitate. He opened her door and kissed her. Not on the cheek, on the lips. My vision blurred, my heart cracked. But I didn't move. I just watched as she laughed, touched his arm like she'd touched mine for years, and walked with him inside the hotel. I sat there in silence, the truth screaming in my face. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. If she wanted to play dirty, I was about to show her how dangerous a broken man could become. The image of that man burned itself into my memory. His confident walk, his hand on her lower back, the way she leaned into him like he was home. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage, the anniversaries, the late-night talks, the way she used to look at me. I wondered when she stopped. By morning, my heartbreak had hardened into something else. Curiosity. I needed to know who he was. What did he have that I didn't? Was he rich? Younger? Did she love him? Or was it just a fling? I couldn't ask her. Not yet. So I did the unthinkable. The next day, I returned to the hotel. I sat in the parking lot for hours, pretending to read a newspaper, waiting. Then, just after 6 p.m., the same man strolled out the front entrance, alone. He looked relaxed, whistling, phone in hand. I followed him from a distance. He drove a black BMW, license plate ending in 92L. He went to a gym, then a barbershop. Then, around 9 p.m., he pulled into a gated estate, classy, private, secure. I parked outside the gate, made a note of everything. The guard didn't stop him. That meant he lived there. I didn't have his name, but I had his face. And that was enough to start. I didn't want revenge, not yet. I wanted answers. I wanted truth. And maybe, deep down, I wanted to know if my wife had fallen for a better man, or just a different one. What I didn't know then was that this man, this stranger, was about to turn my entire life upside down in a way I never could have imagined. Over the next week, I became someone else, a shadow. I followed the man like a private investigator, watching from afar, taking notes. He lived alone, no kids, no ring. He went to work in a fancy office downtown and liked his coffee with 2 sugars and a splash of oat milk. But it still didn't answer my biggest question. Who was he? So I did something bold. I waited for him to park at his office, then I approached the front desk like I belonged there. I wore a suit and carried a clipboard. Told the receptionist I was a courier delivering documents to one Mr. Cola Daniels. She pointed upstairs. My stomach flipped. That name, Cola Daniels. It was familiar. Too familiar. Later that night, I dug through Lydia's old photos on our shared cloud account, scrolled past birthdays, holidays, and beach trips. Then I found it. A college graduation photo. Lydia standing between 2 men. One was me. The other was Cola. He hadn't changed much, just aged a bit. They were close back then. She used to talk about him. I thought he was just a friend from university, someone from her past. But clearly, he wasn't in the past anymore. Why him? Why now? That night, Lydia came home late again, said she had a meeting. I nodded, smiling like a fool, while the truth throbbed in my chest. She was cheating on me with a man she once called her first love. But here's the twist. I wasn't just going to sit back and let it destroy me. If she wanted to bring her past into our present, I was going to remind her who owned the future. I became a master of silence. I smiled when she walked through the door. I cooked her favorite meals. I massaged her feet while she scrolled through her phone, pretending to be tired from work. She didn't suspect a thing. She didn't know I'd followed her. She didn't know I knew about Cola. And most importantly, she didn't know I had a plan. Instead of confronting her, I started fixing everything about myself. I woke up early. I joined a gym. I hired a personal trainer, shaved off the gut I'd grown over the years, and focused. Every rep, every drop of sweat was powered by betrayal. I changed my wardrobe. Tailored shirts, new cologne, sharp shoes. I even started networking again, making moves at work, positioning myself for a promotion I'd been too lazy to chase before. Lydia barely noticed at first. She was too wrapped up in her secret world, but eventually I saw it. The way her eyes lingered a second longer when I walked by in a fitted shirt. The way she asked who I was texting, even though it was just my brother. Funny, isn't it? When they think you're weak, they don't expect you to rise. One night, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up. My heart skipped. Cola, you wore that dress just for me, didn't you? You're wicked. I took a screenshot, sent it to my own phone. Then I placed hers back, carefully, silently, like I'd done nothing at all. Let her have her secret. I was building something far more dangerous than revenge. I was becoming the man she thought she didn't need. And soon she was going to beg for the version of me she threw away. 3 weeks passed, and the change in me became undeniable. I had muscle where there used to be softness. My posture was straighter, my smile more confident. I laughed again, but not in the way Lydia was used to. This time my laughter had depth, like I knew something no one else did. And I did. I knew her secret. Lydia, on the other hand, started acting strange, nervous, distracted. She watched me from the kitchen doorway while I buttoned up my shirt for work. She asked if I was seeing someone at the gym. I chuckled and kissed her cheek. That kiss froze her in place. She wasn't used to me being the mysterious one. One night, I came home later than usual. She was waiting on the couch, wearing a silk robe, wine glass in hand. She smiled too wide. "You've been distant lately," she said. "Everything okay?" I sat across from her and gave the best performance of my life. Told her I was just focused on self-improvement, that I felt like I had let myself go and wanted to be better for both of us. Her eyes softened. She touched my hand, said I looked incredible lately. "Thanks," I said, pulling away slowly. "I'm finally starting to feel like myself again." I could see the panic behind her smile. She was losing control. And control is what cheaters love most. The more I pulled away, the more she reached for me. I didn't give her answers. I gave her mystery. She had no idea where I went after work or who I talked to on the phone, and that drove her crazy. The tables were turning. She just didn't know I was flipping the whole game. It was subtle at first. Lydia started texting me more during the day. Little things like, just checking on you, or hope you're having a good day. At dinner, she complimented my cooking again like we were newlyweds. But her eyes betrayed her. Nervous, scanning my phone screen whenever it buzzed. Then came the weekend. She asked to cancel her girls' night. Said she wanted us to stay in, order food and watch a movie like old times. I said yes, I played along, ordered her favorite, prawns and pasta, poured her wine, even rubbed her feet like I used to. She looked confused the entire night. And I loved it. But I wasn't done. The next day, I left the house dressed sharp. Told her I had errands, no need to wait up. Truth was, I had nothing planned. I just drove around, parked near a quiet cafe, and scrolled through photos of her and Kola. Screenshots of their messages, voice notes I'd secretly recorded. Then I texted her, thinking of you. No emojis, just cold and calculated. She replied immediately, I miss you, come home. She was unraveling. But I had one more test. That night, while she showered, I left a strand of long red hair on the passenger seat of my car. Just one, not too obvious, but enough. The next morning, she asked if I'd given anyone a ride. I smiled, sipping my coffee. Just someone from the gym who needed a lift. Why? She said nothing, but her fingers tightened around the cup. It had begun the war for my attention. And Lydia was starting to realize she wasn't the only one who could lie with a straight face. By now, Lydia was spiraling. She started trying harder, cooking dinner more often, asking about my day, even wearing lingerie I hadn't seen since our honeymoon. But her touch felt rehearsed, her affection forced. I knew it wasn't love returning, it was fear. Fear that the man she once controlled was slipping through her fingers. And she was right. One night she came home unexpectedly early. I had just gotten back from the gym, shirt off, sweat still on my skin. She stood in the doorway, watching me breathe. You didn't tell me you'd be home late, I said. She shrugged. Thought I'd surprise you. You weren't answering my texts. I told her I was focused. She smiled tightly. Then her eyes darted toward the bathroom, where my second phone was hidden. She didn't know it existed, not yet. But Lydia was suspicious now. She wanted proof. So she made her first big mistake. She tried to follow me. The next morning, I saw her car parked 2 blocks from the gym. I knew it was hers. The cracked side mirror, the faded parking sticker on the windshield. I parked further down the street and watched from inside a cafe. She sat there for hours, pretending to scroll her phone, glancing up every time a man in gym clothes walked by. But she didn't see me. But I saw her, and I took a photo. That evening, she acted normal again, laughing, pouring wine, asking if I'd missed her. I smiled and asked if she had a productive morning. She froze. Just errands, she replied. I slid my phone across the table. The photo of her waiting in the car stared back at her. Her face drained of color. I leaned in. So, who's hiding something now? Lydia didn't speak for a full minute after I showed her the photo. She just stared at the screen like it might erase itself if she blinked long enough. I waited. Finally, she cleared her throat, forcing a weak laugh. Okay, I was just curious, she said. You've been acting different, and I just thought maybe. I stood up slowly, walked to the kitchen and poured myself a drink. I let her squirm. Let her fear grow roots. You thought maybe I was cheating, I said calmly. She hesitated. Yes. The irony almost made me laugh. The woman sneaking around with her old lover was accusing me of betrayal. The guilt in her eyes couldn't hide behind her excuses anymore. She wasn't just scared I was onto her, she was scared she was losing the upper hand. And she was right. Because in that moment, something shifted between us. I stopped being the husband trying to hold our marriage together, and I became the man who no longer needed her. I slept soundly that night while Lydia tossed and turned. In the morning, I dressed in silence, kissed our daughter on the forehead, and left without saying goodbye to my wife. And as I walked out the door, I realized something terrifying. I didn't miss her. Not her voice, not her touch, not even her scent. But what scared me the most was that someone else was starting to fill the space she once owned. Someone new. Someone who made me feel like a man again. And soon, Lydia would learn. She wasn't just losing her husband. She was losing the man she never imagined she'd have to fight for. It was supposed to be a regular morning. I'd just finished my workout and stopped by the juice bar next to the gym. The usual line, the usual faces, until I saw her. She wasn't like Lydia. There was something natural about her. No forced smile, no heavy makeup, just simple beauty and calm confidence. She was dressed in workout gear, earbuds in, nodding her head slightly to the music. She ordered before me, mango smoothie, extra ginger. She stepped aside, glanced my way and smiled. "You should try mango ginger. It'll fix your mood." I smiled back. "Do I look like I need fixing?" She laughed, not a flirtatious laugh, just honest, light. We talked, nothing deep, just casual banter while waiting for our drinks. But the way she spoke, kind, warm, no games, was like fresh air after being locked in a toxic room for too long. Her name was Amara. I didn't give her my number, didn't ask for hers. But something about her lingered in my mind for the rest of the day. Her voice, her energy, her realness. That evening, I walked into the house and saw Lydia on the phone whispering in the kitchen. Her back was turned, but her body language told me everything. Her voice dropped to a hush when she saw me. She quickly hung up and smiled. "You're home early?" I nodded. Didn't say much. Just walked past her. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't jealous. I was simply over it. Because while Lydia was still clinging to the past with Cola, I had just felt a spark of something new. And this time, I wasn't going to let it slip away. The silence between Lydia and me started to grow, and she hated it. She was used to being the center of my world, used to me asking where she was going, what she needed, if she was okay. But now, I gave her nothing. No arguments, no attention, just peace. The kind that scared her. She started hovering more, checking my laundry basket, asking who I was texting, watching me with nervous eyes while pretending everything was fine. But I knew her game. I'd played it for years. Except now, the game was mine. She invited me to dinner that Friday, just us, booked a table at one of my favorite spots from back in the day, said she missed us. I agreed, not because I wanted to fix things, but because I wanted her to see what it felt like to want someone who's already left you emotionally. She dressed to kill, hair done, lips red, eyes searching. I dressed well too, but I didn't try. I was effortlessly calm, and when the waiter brought our food, Lydia kept trying to steer the conversation toward the past, our wedding day, our daughter's first steps, our old vacations. I smiled, nodded, but gave her nothing deep. She leaned forward. "Is there someone else?" I held her gaze and took a sip of my drink. "Does it matter?" Her face crumbled for a split second before she forced a smile. It would matter to me. But the truth was, she'd already replaced me in her heart long before I ever thought of moving on. Now that I was doing the same, she finally felt the weight of her betrayal. And it was only the beginning. It happened on a rainy Wednesday. Lydia came home later than usual, her face pale, makeup smudged like she'd been crying, or worse, caught in a lie she couldn't control. She barely said a word to me, just went upstairs and shut the door. I didn't ask, I didn't care. But I knew something had happened. The next day, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up on the counter again, and this time I didn't even need to snoop. The message appeared bold on the screen. "Hola, so after everything, you're going to act brand new? You knew what this was. Don't start catching feelings." I took a slow breath. So the mighty Cola wasn't Prince Charming after all. I locked the screen and walked away, satisfied. Lydia came downstairs 10 minutes later, acting normal, cooking eggs like she hadn't just been hit with heartbreak. But her movements were slower, her eyes didn't meet mine, and for once, I wasn't the broken one at the table. She'd been used, tossed, played. The man she risked our marriage for was treating her like an afterthought, and now, with me slipping out of her fingers, she was stuck in a painful limbo of regret. Later that night, I watched her scroll through her phone over and over again, waiting for a reply from him that wouldn't come. She pretended she was reading a book, but her thumb kept swiping up, refreshing. Cola had gone quiet, and the silence was louder than any insult. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the scarf, the hotel, the lot, and I reminded myself, this wasn't karma. This was justice. And I was just getting started. It started with silence again, but this time it came from her. For 2 days, Lydia barely spoke. She cooked dinner, but didn't sit to eat. She folded laundry in the middle of the night. She lingered around me, waiting for eye contact, like a child seeking permission to speak. But I gave her nothing, and that silence, my silence, ate her alive. Then came Saturday morning. I woke up to her sitting at the edge of our bed, fully dressed, staring at me. "We need to talk," she whispered. I didn't say a word, just sat up, waiting. Her voice trembled. "I messed up. I made the worst mistake of my life." I kept my expression still. "I was lonely," she continued. "You were always busy, distracted, and when Cola came back, I don't know. She stopped, choked by emotion. I looked at her for a long time. Not with anger, but with a strange kind of clarity, the way someone looks at an old photo and realizes they no longer recognize the person in it. "So what now?" I asked calmly. She reached for my hand. I didn't flinch, but I didn't close the gap either. "I want to fix this," she whispered. "I'll cut him off. I already have. He's not who I thought he was. But you? You're the man I married. Please, let me make this right." For the first time in our entire marriage, Lydia looked afraid. Not of me, but of losing me. And that was when I knew I had all the power. I leaned in slowly, looked her straight in the eye and said, "You're not trying to save this marriage. You're just afraid no one else will love you after this." Sunday evening. The sky was grey, and the air inside the house was heavier than usual. Lydia had spent the entire day trying to pretend everything was fine, cleaning, lighting candles, even baking muffins, like we were some kind of perfect suburban family again. I watched her without a word, let her perform her guilt. Then, just as we were sitting down for dinner, the doorbell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Firm, impatient. Lydia looked up, eyes wide. I stood and walked to the door, slowly, cautiously. I opened it. And there he stood. He caught in the flesh. Taller than I remembered, arrogant as ever, but this time, his eyes weren't playful, they were frantic. "We need to talk," he said quickly. "It's about Lydia." I tilted my head. "Lydia?" Behind me, I heard her gasp. Plates clattered in the kitchen. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "Make it quick," I said. Cooler ran his hand over his face. "She's been calling me non-stop. She won't stop. I blocked her. She's losing it. I just need to make sure you understand. I never promised her anything serious." I stared at him. "So why are you here?" "Because she said if I didn't talk to you, she'd tell my fiancé everything." My chest tightened. "Fiancé?" He nodded. "We're getting married next month. This thing with Lydia was never supposed to get messy." I looked at him. This man my wife had risked it all for, and realized just how pitiful it all was. Lydia wasn't just betrayed. She was used, discarded, and now desperate. And now I had a new question. How far would she go to keep me from leaving? I stepped back inside, heart thudding, but calm on the surface. Lydia stood by the staircase, frozen. She'd heard enough through the door. Her lips trembled, mascara smudged under her eyes. For the first time, she looked completely defeated. I walked past her without a word and went upstairs. 30 minutes later, she knocked softly on the bedroom door. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. She opened the door anyway, stepping in slowly, her voice small. "I know everything's falling apart. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I still love you. I never stopped loving you." I turned, looked her in the eye and said coldly, "You stopped loving me the moment you let him touch you." She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Not dramatic tears, real ones. Guttural, desperate. The kind of cry that comes from knowing you've lost something you can never get back. I watched her for a moment. Then I left the room. And that's when she did it. The next morning, I woke up to her standing in the kitchen, smiling like the last few weeks never happened. "I made breakfast," she said sweetly. "Your favorite." I didn't touch it. She followed me to the door, holding something out. It was a card. I opened it. Inside was a sonogram. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. The world froze. I stared at the blurry image in my hand, my mind racing. Was it mine or his? I looked at her. "When?" She didn't answer. And that silence was louder than any confession. She wasn't trying to win me back anymore. She was trying to trap me. I stared at the sonogram for a long time that morning. The tiny blur on black and white paper felt heavier than a mountain. Lydia hovered nearby, eyes pleading, smile trembling. "It's yours," she said, "I swear." But I'd learnt not to take her words at face value. I wanted to believe her, I really did, but everything inside me screamed, "Don't." So I nodded slowly and said what she wanted to hear. "We'll figure it out." Her shoulders relaxed, relief flooded her face. But behind my calm smile, I had already made a plan. The next day, I made a quiet visit to the clinic she'd listed on the appointment card she left on the kitchen counter, posed as her husband, asked a few harmless questions about the appointment, then dropped the bomb. "Can you confirm how far along she is?" The nurse checked her records and gave me the number. 6 weeks. I thanked her and walked out, heart racing. 6 weeks? The timeline didn't add up. That would place conception during the peak of her affair with Kola, when we were barely touching. I drove straight to a private lab, booked a prenatal paternity test, expensive, but worth it. I told Lydia I wanted to support her, told her we needed to prepare. I even helped her into the car the morning of the test, like a loving husband. She didn't ask questions, she just looked grateful I was still there. The results came 3 days later. And the name on the report under biological father. Not a match. I stared at the paper in silence. So it was true. The baby wasn't mine. And now Lydia's last weapon had just backfired in the worst way. I sat in my car for almost an hour with the DNA report in my lap. It was official. The child wasn't mine. Everything Lydia had tried to hold on to, our marriage, her safety net, the lie, was unraveling fast. When I finally walked into the house, I didn't slam the door, I didn't raise my voice, I just moved with quiet purpose. Lydia was on the couch, watching a film, acting like things were normal. She looked up when I entered. "Hey, you okay?" I sat across from her and placed the envelope on the table. Her smile disappeared. "What's that?" she asked, though I already saw the fear flicker behind her eyes. "You tell me," I replied. She opened it slowly, hands shaking. Her eyes moved across the paper, then her breath hitched. Lydia didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just looked at me with hollow eyes. "I can explain," she whispered. But I stood up, took a deep breath. "You don't need to." I walked upstairs, grabbed a small suitcase and packed only what mattered. My documents, my clothes, a few framed photos of our daughter. I didn't take anything else. Lydia followed me up, begging now, "Please don't do this. It was a mistake. He meant nothing. I was lost. I didn't know how to fix things." "You had time to fix it," I said calmly, "but you kept choosing him." I turned to the door. "Where will you go?" she cried. I stopped, looked at her for what felt like the final time. "Somewhere you can't follow." And I left. The weight that lifted off me was immediate. For the first time in years, I was free. From lies, from manipulation, from her. And I was finally ready to become the man I was meant to be. The first night away from home felt strange. I checked into a small serviced apartment across town. Clean, quiet, nothing fancy, but it gave me something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat by the window and breathed like I hadn't in a long time. No pretending, no paranoia, no lies. And that's when I thought of her. Amara. The woman from the juice bar. She'd slipped into my mind more than once over the past weeks, not because she was beautiful, but because she was real. She didn't need anything from me. She just was. I scrolled through my messages. A while back, I'd saved her number after running into her a second time outside the gym. We'd shared another casual conversation, and I never forgot how easy it was. I sent her a text. "Hey, it's me. I'm not sure why I'm messaging you, but I needed someone." I didn't expect a reply, but she answered within 5 minutes. "Meet me for a smoothie. No judgment, just peace." We met the next afternoon. No big emotions, no awkward questions. She looked at me like she saw me, not like she was trying to read my secrets. I didn't tell her everything, just enough. She nodded and said softly, "Sometimes freedom comes dressed as heartbreak." We sat there for hours. And for the first time since the scarf, the hotel, the lies, I laughed. A real deep laugh. The kind of laugh that belongs to a man who's finally stepping into a new life. And little did I know, that new life was about to test me in a way I never saw coming. Peace has a way of fooling you into thinking the war is over. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. I was seeing Amara more often. Nothing serious, no labels, just two people learning how to breathe in the same rhythm. She never asked about Lydia, she just gave me space to be. But peace doesn't last when the past hasn't truly let go. It was a Thursday evening. I came back to the apartment after a long day, planning to rest. Then my phone rang. Private number. I answered. There was a pause, then a voice I knew too well. It's Lydia. I said nothing. Her tone was calm. Too calm. I didn't call to fight, she said. I need to see you, please. I sighed. What is it now, Lydia? Another pause. Then, softly. It's about the baby. That got my attention. I thought the DNA test made everything clear, I said. She hesitated. I lied. About something else. My stomach turned. I didn't want to meet her. I didn't want to step back into her chaos. But something in her voice was different this time. So I agreed. We met at a neutral spot, an old park we used to walk in before life got messy. She looked thinner, tired, like she hadn't slept in days. She sat beside me on the bench. The test was right. The baby isn't yours. I stayed silent. Then she dropped the real bomb. But it's not Kala's either. I turned to her sharply. What? She nodded slowly, ashamed. It was someone else. One night. A mistake I never told anyone about, not even him. I lied to both of you. I stared at her, stunned. The woman who once had it all had completely fallen apart. And now, the world she built on lies had buried her beneath the weight of her own secrets. I left Lydia sitting on that park bench, her face buried in her hands, sobbing into the life she'd ruined. There was nothing left to say. He'd betrayed me with not one man, but two, lied about a baby, tried to trap me, tried to play victim, but in the end, she played herself. I walked away without looking back. And this time, I didn't just leave the park. I left the old me behind too. A week passed. Then another. I didn't contact her, she didn't try again. Maybe because she knew whatever we had was long dead, buried under layers of deceit and desperation. I focused on my daughter, my one light through all of this. We spent time together, laughed, healed. I didn't speak ill of her mother. I just promised her I'd always be present, and for the first time in my life, I meant it. Amara stayed close, never overstepping, never pushing. She listened when I needed to talk and gave space when I didn't. Our bond grew in silence, in comfort, in truth. One evening, as we walked by the lake near her apartment, she looked at me and said, "You've changed. You carry peace now, even when the world tries to pull it from you." I smiled. I had to lose everything to find it. She slipped her hand into mine, not as a replacement for what I lost, but as a reward for surviving it. And that's when I realized something. Lydia was once my everything, but I became the man she couldn't resist. After I stopped being the man who needed her. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to hit the like button, comment your favorite part, and subscribe for more amazing stories. Your support helps us keep bringing you new adventures every day. Thanks for watching.